say
Yeah.
higher.
That's okay,
And they
we'll
go-
let them still be our MC.
We won't discriminate because of that.
She get
We can get it.
that helicopter and take
Come
it
down.
The helicopters are all gonna be flying on the riverfront on the 4th of July.
You bet, they're gonna be making.
I think they have all 7 of theirs out there, and, you know, one lands and picks up and takes
Say
off.
hi.
And, you know,
Are you gonna
fuels
say
up.
hi?
Every minute or two, another one comes down and lands.
Say hi.
That's some money.
Pictures?
The
Yeah.
rates probably go up a little bit.
Here's
$300
Mom. Close up.
charter.
Yeah. Say Happy
Yeah,
Mother's
see.
Day, Mom.
That's not what
Our
it's
parish
for.
has.
Say Happy Mother's Day,
adopted a
Mom.
Happy
parish in
Mother's Day.
Haiti.
We have lots of
And
film.
the pastor of this Haitian
4 hours
parish
worth.
You
was
were
up
supposed to do the
last
grandmas, asking them
the people here
questions.
Oh dear.
Why?
were able to bring
You
him
know,
to St.
doing
Louis
one
for
of
a
those,
few
this
days,
is the
and
way
he
it was
speaks
when I was
Creole
a kid.
French,
Oh,
no
dear.
English.
Huh?
So I got
Now,
a
each you can think
helicopter
of a
ride
good
a
question
week
to
ago
ask
last
your
Friday.
grandmas.
That was clear.
And so he thought that was
I don't
pretty
care.
good stuff, you know. Guys took him up and there weren't very many other people
Is that a
around.
movie
The
game?
owners of
Yeah.
the company just,
Who's this then?
you know, were so
Right.
nice to him and just had a great time, so.
Are you gonna go ask him questions, David?
David is shy.
Steve, what about you? Did you think?
Tom, get your hand out of the landscape.
You guys ought to ask the grandmas about when they were kids and where they lived and all
Where did you
that.
live when you were kids?
I think I told her it doesn't
Well, good, now we want it on tape.
Mhm.
Oh.
You guys go over and ask your grandmas to tell you about when they were little kids.
How was it when you were
Tom,
When I
Steve,
used to
David, all
take
three of
my
you, you know, what, Len and Lawrence, when they had the airplane, the model airplane, they flew out of grandma's house and set it on fire or
I
whatever.
don't remember that. Well, you're supposed to tell
idea.
about us
Yeah.
kids, come on. Mother,
Or about dumping over the outhouses
Well,
and all
When
that.
I was a kid, I mean, when I worked, when,
She's not got it turned on, right?
She does, but she
You guys
can't
wanna
talk
shut
while
up?
she's using it, otherwise it'll override everybody else.
No, when I was a little girl, I played with boys all the time. I didn't like girls because I didn't have fancy clothes. And the boys were so nice to me. So there was Spike's Candy Factory across the street from our house, and there was a big lot with a big pond. And the boys and I would go get these little snakes about that long and lay them across the walk, live snakes. And when the girls were on their lunch hour, they'd come down there and they'd see the snakes and they'd scream and run. Another time, I'd go over to the pond and get these, we call them crawdads, and I don't know what you call them now with the big crabs. And I used to take them and chase my oldest sister around because she was nasty to me. Another time I hit her on the foot with a scrubbing brush and I crawled underneath the back porch steps so Mama couldn't whip me. Oh, I was a devil. Yeah, and then we used to put gunny sacks. We were always barefoot, never had shoes on. Put gunny sacks on. You know what gunny sacks are, don't you?
No.
The potatoes used to come in them. They were big, long sacks, oh, about that long, and that's the way we used to buy our potatoes. So we'd put them on us and tie them around our waist, and then we had a big back porch, and we'd jump off of the back porch down. The fastest runner with those on. In the wintertime, we had these big bobsleds. They had 2 sleds, one on each end, and then this great big thing we called a bobsled. And we used to go up on the corner and come down. And then we got where the snow was real deep. Then the boy that was driving the sled, he would tip us all over in the snow. Oh, we used to have great time. Yeah. Think of some more nasty things I did now.
Well, Mother, you said when you were working, what happened?
Yeah, what happened to you, Ann? Nothing. Oh. Oh, another thing. We had a family live next door to us. And this old man had false teeth. And he used to get me over there and he'd say, I want to show you something, Marie. He'd take out his teeth. Now, he said, now you do that with yours. And I try to pull my teeth out.
Well, hey, at least it was only his teeth.
Oh. Yeah, if I did that long enough, I could think of a lot of things. Oh, boy. Yeah, I played marbles with the boys and baseball and everything. I never played with girls. Because they were always dressed fancy and I didn't have fancy clothes and the boys were real nice to me, so I stayed with the boys. Now, Ed, you're not
Where did you live?
on, in Bloomington,
Oh,
Illinois?
in Bloomington.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah.
Are you down on Tennessee then?
What is it?
Where were you living then? California or Tennessee?
On
or
Pennsylvania.
Pennsylvania.
Tell what you did, Ed.
I can't remember telling
Can't
you
you?
the truth.
Oh.
Well, you hung around with the Croxes, didn't you?
Yes, yes. Very much. Always from first grade on.
Oh, and your Uncle Walter, when we were still at home, we had you know, those old time street lamps right in front of our house. He used to take a rocking chair when there was no traffic those days and sit in the middle of the street, and all the kids in the neighborhood would gather around him and he'd tell them stories. And oh, the stories he would tell. It was really funny. Yeah.
Wine.
Dressed in white.
I
and
usually
some
want a
old
beer,
lady.
but not now.
Somewhere she had white dress on, and white slippers and
I was
everything.
getting tired.
And we went over to the pond, and I
Plus, I couldn't
fell in
laugh
the
every time
pond,
she
and
said
I
something.
couldn't get out.
I
It
was
was
like,
muddy, and it was slick, and I couldn't get out, and she tried to help me. You should have
Yeah.
seen her clothes. Did she get it when she got home?
Maybe a company.
Oh.
What's it?
Well, that's a good question, Stephen. Good question.
Yeah. I think I told you everything. I wrote it down in that book when I could.
Yeah, but you never gave us the book.
I don't have the book there yet. I was hoping to get some more, but,
What
nobody
about some
tell
of the
me
things they
anything.
used to do on Halloween?
Oh. There was I call it a bridge over the railroad tracks right by the station. The boys and myself, we had cabbages, and we'd go up there and throw the cabbage down on people's heads. And the cars that were parked around, we'd go get all kinds of weeds and grass and everything and pile their front seats full of it.
Don't be getting any ideas, Tom.
Oh, I never heard of trick and treat until we came down here, and the first time they came to the house and said trick or treat, I said, "What's that?" We just got into mischief. Oh, and when we had
You were
those,
in mischief all the time.
all the time, we had these preachers, you know, went around that had their tents and that, and the boys would crawl underneath the tent and make noises like a pig and everything. And the girls would, my sister and I, she went with me then, we would be sitting in the audience, see what the people would do. Oh, I tell you. Oh. Can't remember half of the mischief we used to get into. Oh.
Did you ever do anything like that, Mother? Or are you gonna not tell us?
I
You gonna not admit
What
to
I
it?
will never forget is when we were coming home from school and they had these stones, you know, in front of the house. I mean, you could jump over them. They had one over at Cruzy's house, and Mary Crokes and I remember we'd come home from school, we'd always jump over those. And I finally jumped one time and then broke my two front teeth. And I was without two front teeth for several years.
You can sing that song.
I mean, they just cut out, right like that. I didn't get them fixed until I was about 16 years.
You okay, Bob? Bob's getting a little queasy over here from that. Bob's getting a little queasy. He can't deal with
We
things
used
like
to
that.
walk to school. I was one of my younger brothers and we had quite a distance to walk. And when we start out walking, there, this big colored girl, she was twice as big as we were. She'd come up behind us and she'd start walking with us. She'd, "You don't let me walk with you, I'm gonna beat you up." She went to the school that was across from our church. Every day she'd come up there, "I'm gonna beat you up good," she said, "boy, if you don't let me walk with you."
So did you let her walk with you?
Yeah, we let her walk with us. We were afraid of her because she was so big. In those days, when we went to school, we had what they call, what did they call that, mother, well, I don't think it was Mother Superior, and she had a rubber hose, I mean, that big around and about that long. And on Monday, she would come into class, "Who didn't go to church yesterday?" And everybody that didn't go to church, she'd take them out in the hall and beat them with that rubber hose.
Oh my gosh.
That's for sure, and boy, nowadays, you wouldn't touch the kids.
Well, didn't they lie about it?
No, kids don't.
Stupid kids. Gosh, my 30-year-olds wouldn't call that.
Yeah. Boy.
One time would be all it would take.
But they liked the Radka family, that was my maiden name,
What was your middle name?
Radka. It's Polish.
What?
Radka, R-A-D-K-A,
What is that?
Polish.
I mean, but what does it mean?
I don't know. But the nuns were very good to all of us kids. Seemed like they, because Mama made us go to church every morning, every Sunday afternoon we'd go to Vespers. We were there on time all
You
the
had to
time.
go to
Yeah.
church every
Yeah.
morning.
So
When
they
I
were,
went to high school, grade school.
I never got hit or anything, none of us kids did. They were real good to us. Now, I remember our pastor had a great big, oh, he was a beautiful dog. And he would let us go play with it during recess. Yeah, some good memories. It didn't have much, but it was fun. I think we were happy.
Didn't you used to go walk along the tracks to get coal?
Yeah, that was another thing. That's, my brothers used to have to take the, what I call gunny sacks, go along the railroad tracks, you know, where they were bringing coal on the freight trains, and all of it that fell off, they would go every day after school and collect that coal. We never had to buy coal.
Oh, for goodness sake.
That's where that, yeah. And then on Sunday afternoon, my dad would either take us walking down the railroad track and we'd get apples off of the trees that were hanging over the railroad tracks, or else he'd take us for a ride on the streetcar and we'd get an ice cream cone. And that was great, boy. That was really a treat. Yeah. So, see how good you had it, Mary, when you were growing up? No, we were very happy. We got along real good. We had enough to eat and a roof over our head and clothes.
That's all that was
Yeah,
meant.
yeah. And when my dad, well, he was a coal miner and he was a bartender once, and I remember the saloon wasn't very far from our house. You know where the station is in Bloomington, and the saloon was right across the street from there. And I used to go down there, and he'd give me free sodas then. And there was an old colored man that was renting a house from my dad's father, and he was always in there. I remember him being there all the time. Yeah.
How long did he live? Did he
My
live
dad?
growing up?
My dad was only 54 when he died.
My father was 42 when he
Oh,
died.
gosh. Well, my dad was in a mine cave-in, and that's what the doctor said, it caved in on his stomach. And they said that's what, finally caused his. He was in the mine, and then he was a bartender, and then he was a railroad engineer. That was the last.
And then what was your position in the family? Like you, oldest, youngest, middle?
Me? Oh, no, there was Johnny, Marjorie, George, Walter, and then me. And then Francis died at birth. And then there was Lawrence, Lucille, and Leonard.
How many children were there?
9.
Oh, None of them in St. Louis, are they?
One, my sister was in Texas, she died. My oldest brother's in a nursing home close to Chicago now. And I got a brother in Mobile. And then, let's see, two brothers in Bloomington yet. And my sister in Chicago, Brookfield.
There's several of them living,
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, you helped raise the family, didn't
I
you?
have just one of us, or
Sister.
my sister Mary, and I don't know how she is, I don't think she's too well. The rest of them are all passed away.
Well, what was your family order?
Well,
Because you helped raise the kids, didn't you?
there were 6 of us,
Yeah.
Charlie, Frances, she died, she got a heart attack when she was about 52, I think.
Mm.
They went out dancing one night. The next morning, by 6 o'clock in the morning, she fell out of bed dead.
Oh, my goodness.
And that was Francis, and then Charlie. That was Dolly's husband. And then myself, and then Joe, he passed away. And Frank, and Mary. Just Mary and I are still living.
Okay.
Is David taking pictures? Oh, good
Oh,
heavens.
I think he's just looking.
Just looking.
He's playing with it over there, all right.
Yeah.
I'm sure he's not taking pictures.
Okay, Mary, your turn to tell.
Don't be so sure. Yep, Steve, you better get your sofa,
Ed,
your
remember
foot off
when
the
you were
sofa.
in grade school
Got
and
it deep.
you and, what's his name now, used to live on Madge? You were in the same Cub Scouts with him or Boys, yeah, Cub Scout. And you hit him or something and sister called your dad up to school, you hit somebody. And he said that you told him to hit somebody
Go
back if they
slower.
hit you.
Go slower.
And Dad said, I sure did tell him that, and Sister couldn't get over that. You telling your son to hit somebody if they hit him? He said, I sure did. If they hit him first, hit him back.
He hit him back, huh?
Yeah, and the sister sent a note home with him for Ed to come up, and he went up and he told her, he said, sure, I told him that. He's not standing there and let somebody beat you up. Oh. I can't think of that kid's name. His mother was the head of the thing, Dickens or something. I don't know. I think Bob Hines, you remember him, don't you? Isn't he a, what they call a foot doctor, podiatrist? Is that what they call him? Yeah, out on Manchester. I remember him coming home with Ed.
I'm going to one Wednesday.
You are?
To podiatrist.
Mother,
Yeah. I know.
Watch your
Cut off the lunch.
I can't believe you just said that to your sister.
Do you want cake or brownies?
One cake.
Would you quick whipping that extra?
Cake.
Hey, Stevie.
What do you want, Tom?
he wants cake too.
Where are the plates? Where are the plates?
What plates?
The plates for the cake?
They're in the cabinet with all the other plates. Just go get some out.
Well, aren't you gonna use any? Ow.
David, smart.
Oh, excuse me.
Burgers galore.
This cake isn't coming apart.
Looking good, Stephen. Good. David, move it or lose it, kid.
Well, because there's a space between like the one row cars and then there's a space where the fire hydrant is. So if there's no place to park, you always park in the fire hydrant. Where the fire hydrant is. And if the police come by, you get a ticket.
Georgetown police or what?
Shrewsbury
Police.
police.
Yeah, he wasn't
No, because if
stingy,
it
was he?
was Georgetown police, the ticket would go in the trash.
Yeah.
Those are all public roads.
Oh, okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So
That
the
was
city of
very
Shrewsbury
smart
can
of
collect their tax
Georgetown.
dollars.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, plus they get it maintained by the city for them.
Yeah, that was smart.
Plowed by the
And then they get also city trash service.
Mm-hmm. Even better.
They collect like twice a week though.
They do a
Oh,
pretty good job.
that's even better than Webster, thank you.
Well, it's all
Why
in the
don't you turn that
dumpster.
off?
So are we making,
All right,
I'm sure we could get a good clip out of this if you keep going.
come on up here.
For our funniest home videos, what do you think?
Let's do a.
Come up here.
Driver's head video.
Where?
Oh God. Every day.
No,
You don't?
no, I didn't say that. You're putting words in my mouth.
It's been about
How often do you practice, David?
Enough.
Enough.
Yeah,
Is that like
well,
once a month or once every 2 months?
or the
Or
afternoon
10
of your
minutes
lesson.
before the lesson.
I think on choice number 3.
Like, oh my gosh, my teacher's gonna yell at me. Take it easy.
Let's do wrestling at the Chase.
No,
Yeah.
we should get the grandmas to talk a little bit more.
Bob, you'll need to
David?
come over here. What
I
are you
took
doing?
violin lessons
No, I
for a
know
while,
these
and my brother kept teasing me, so I said, "Sound like a dying cat," so I finally.
My one brother took violin lessons, I guess, for 15 years, and I think he only knew how to play one song in all those years.
Who took the violin lessons?
Charlie. I think he took them for 15 years. And he used to take them from Joe Oswald, and Joe Oswald was one of the guys that played in the symphony in St. Louis. But Charlie never did learn how to play. And I think he knew one piece, and I can't remember the name of it. One song he used to play always, and that was it.
He used to be an alderman in the city of St. Louis, didn't he?
Yes. He
Is
was
that like
second
back in
in,
Al Kaufman's days?
he was second in line to Kaufman. I mean, the two of them, when that guy Becker got killed in that airplane accident. You know, you remember?
Becker, I don't
Baker
remember.
was the mayor of St. Louis. And they went for a spin in airplane spin or something, and they got killed. And then mayor got to be the mayor of St. Louis.
And then Charlie was right up there as what, as
Mm-hmm.
president of the board of aldermen, or?
And he went to school for 15 years at night to get his license in as an attorney. All his education was
Go tell
from
those
high
guys to
school.
knock it off or they're dead. And Frank was in the fire department, wasn't he?
No,
Or
Joe was.
Joe was.
Frank was a sign painter, and he had a nice sign business on 9th and Market. And then when Charlie got to be alderman, why, Frank gave up his business over there, and then he went to work for the city. Charlie got him a job, I guess, with the city, and of course, Joe, they being Republicans, why Joe never could get to be fire chief or anything like that because he was Republican. But Joe was smart, better than Charlie or Frank. But because he wasn't a Democrat, he didn't get very far in the fire department. He just got to be, what else do they have? Fire chief or something? What other?
Was he head of a house? He was a
Yeah,
captain.
He was captain of the house over there on Kings Highway and that street that comes, forget the name of that, right there at the wedge.
That Christie?
Yeah, Christie.
Okay.
That's where he was. And he tried for fire chief several times. He always was maybe in the 4 or 5 that they would pick, but of course he was always skipped because he was a Republican. He never did make the grade. He was never appointed, rather.
And you used to run that laundromat over on Hodemont?
Yeah. How did you know it was on Vodamon? Did I tell you?
Well, I know, I have my ways.
I owned it for 6 years. Then it was getting bad in the neighborhood and I sold it.
Well, Mom, you ought to be able to tell us about, what did I tell you in the kitchen there?
About this, on the ice, on the pond.
Yeah, and maybe about Uncle Jim, and he was pretty much of a ladies' man and always
Yeah,
had the
yeah,
fancy
yeah.
cars.
Yeah, when we first got married, and we lived with his mother, and his oldest brother was divorced, and he was at home, and he had a son, teenage son too there. And this oldest brother of Ed's, he was a ladies' man. Oh, boy. And the women used to call, what was it one time? Oh, Eddie was a baby, and I was bathing him, and the phone rang, and it was one of his girlfriends. And I had Ed on one of those tables, you know, like you wash a baby on. And I couldn't leave him, and I couldn't answer the phone. And Jim come in, and he said, did so-and-so call? I don't know what her name was. I said, well, the phone rang, but I couldn't answer. And he got so mad at me because it was his girlfriend calling to see when he was going to meet her or something. Well, that just didn't work at all with us, you know, living there like that.
It's hard.
No.
And he used to have some pretty fancy cars and that, didn't he?
Yeah, he had, what was, great big thing, looked like a hearse, big black thing. I know, your dad used to borrow it once in a while. We'd use it at night. No, I remember on that pond when it was frozen in wintertime, my daddy had these skates, you know, that turned up on the end. They had a curl come up like that on the, and he could really skate, and I couldn't skate. I'd always on my ankles. So I'd get on the sled, and then the men would pull me all around on the pond on the sled. Yeah.
And what about when Dad was dating you? Because he was Irish and you were German.
Oh, yeah. See, on Sunday morning, I had to go to church I had to be at work at 7 o'clock, so there was a Catholic church just about 2 blocks from the telephone office. And I'd go there to church, and that was Irish. And all these Irish girls really hated me.
In St. Louis?
Uh-huh.
Where
No,
was it? Oh, this was in Bloomington.
Oh.
And the Irish girls really hated me. We used to, he belonged to the Knights of Columbus, and we went to all their dances all the time and everything. And they would tell me, they said that there's enough Irish girls here, you don't have to go over there and date a German.
Oh, boy.
And they didn't like me at all. Oh.
Well, you had the same thing, Mother, didn't you? Nobody in the family wanted you to get together with.
Nobody what?
Nobody wanted you and Dad to get together?
No.
But what was that old saying? God made the German, devil made the Dutch, and whoever made the Irish didn't make much. We used to always go around and say that.
I always had a lot of Irish friends.
Well, the Irish fellows were real nice to me, but not The girls, woo, nothing to do with you, uh-uh. Nope. We used to have a lot of fun though, going to those dances. I remember when your Uncle Walt, you know, he and Dorothy were just dating at the time. And Dorothy could drink like a steward. She never got drunk. You know, that's time when you didn't have real whiskey and that, what did they
During
call it?
Prohibition.
Yeah. And we went someplace, I don't know where, we were drinking, and the three of them were drinking like nobody's business, and I thought, well, if they can drink it, I can drink it. My God, did I get sick. And I had new winter coat on, it was beautiful. And I irked all over the front of them. And that cured me, boy. No more. Oh. But my sister-in-law Dorothy, though, she could drink. It never affected her, it was like drinking water.
Isn't that something?
I don't know.
Another quiet moment in history.
Wasn't it your brothers chase Dad away from the house because he was German or Irish one time, or he was afraid to come over to Stevensonville or
Yeah, Stevensonville, that's what they call the place where I lived, and there was never no crimes went on there or anything, but people thought it was a real bad neighborhood. They were scared to death to come there. And I think Ed was kind of afraid to come to see me, you know, too. And, well, they said that the boys in the Stevensonville didn't want other fellas coming in their territory and taking their girls. So,
And Mrs. English, you had that place out at High Ridge, Hillsboro. Why don't you tell a little bit about that and about
Yeah,
where
I
Mr.
can't
English
talk about
worked
it.
and
I can't tell you too much about it.
well, you built that place out there, didn't you?
Yeah.
Wasn't there one time where Mary Beth broke Bobby's arm or something
uh-oh,
like that?
I'll come out, Mary.
No, I had
What's that?
broken
Or
arms.
you had a broken arm? Okay.
Yeah, out there.
Oh, yes, when you were small, I think you had a broken arm.
Mm-hmm.
I remember that. It was years ago. Oh, that was when we lived on Murdoch, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And you used to work for Al Cervantes, didn't you?
Who?
Yeah.
Al Cervantes?
Yes, I have some wonderful memories of that. Worked for him for several years. And then when I changed, let me see,
He was a builder then, wasn't he? Buildings?
Cervantes?
Yeah, wasn't he in construction?
No, he was a wonderful real estate man, a wonderful insurance man. We were connected with Columbia National Life Insurance Company, and he was a broker for them. And he went into business for himself. And at that time, when he was a broker with them, I worked with a woman by the name of Martha Fitzgerald. And she left him and went to work for somebody else at that time. And why she left him, I never did know, because she was such a good friend of the families and everything. Then, of course, I was too young at that time. When I started working for him, I was only 15 and a half years or something like that. And this was when I was maybe about 18 years or something. And then later on, I found out he had a woman on the side. He had a girlfriend on the side. And I didn't know that. And then he went into business for himself, and then I was his secretary. And I liked him. And we had this one insurance woman, and I guess maybe she was the one that was his friend. I don't know. I don't know who his friend was. But his wife, and they were wonderful people. I still remember their address. They lived at 3723 Juniata, the whole family. He had, I think, 7 children. And they'd always give 2 parties a year, one party at the house and then we'd sit around at the table, you know, she had a dinner party. And then one was a kind of a summer party, you know, out in a park or something like that. And he was a wonderful boss. I really liked him. And then I left, and I forget the name of the girl that took my place. I got to be real friendly with her, of course, and he was always, I guess, still running around with this woman. But his wife absolutely said she would not give him a divorce. Victoria I. Cervantes was her name. And she would never divorce him, but later on, I guess, they just separated. And she went to live at the, not the Sun Hotel, but the, over there on Grand Avenue, right on Grand and Magnolia, there's a big apartment there. That's where she went to live. Then they broke up, and she, but before they broke up, why, she had to raise all those kids by herself. And I think he went to live with this woman, and he never did get a divorce from Mrs. Cervantes because she absolutely wasn't going to give him a divorce. And then later on, why, I got acquainted with the guy that died. There's a Cervantes now, but the guy that died, Cervantes, one of his sons, I got to know his son later on. But they were a wonderful family, Cervantes were.
Well, then didn't you go work for a real estate company too?
Well, I left there, and then I remember I walked the streets, and I remember meeting Mary Prokes downtown one day, and she was out of town. It was during the Depression, and she said she's just about ready to commit suicide. She couldn't find a job. And I took a job working for some real estate. Oh, I saw an ad in the paper for men. I remember that. Saw an ad in the paper advertising for salesmen. So I went there. It was in the chemical building, and I told them if they need salesmen, maybe they might need another girl, and I told them I was experienced. And he hired me for $10 a week.
Oh, boy. Oh.
I worked there. And then I don't know, in the meantime, I had an application at Shell Oil Company, and I went to, and they called me, and I left there, and I went to Shell Oil. Oh yes, I called up Mary Prokes and told her, and I told him, I says, I got another girl that's a good girl, insurance and real estate girl. So they hired Mary Prokes at that place. And I went to work for Shell Oil Company, and I just hated that place. It was just like piecework. There was about 8 of us sitting around the table, and it was this, they used to furnish oil for these different places in in Wisconsin and places, people that don't have furnaces, I guess, just burning oil, I guess, in there. I don't know. That's what they used to have. I guess they still do that. And there was about 8 of us sitting around, and there was one fella, he was always looking at us, continually looking at us, and I just couldn't stand that guy. I think he was like a nut. And in the meantime, I had, what was that? I had made an application with another real estate man, and he called me and hired me. And that was in the chemical building. I went back into the chemical building. And of course, I told him I had experience in real estate and insurance and everything. And he hired me, and he was a Jewish man. His name was Tavan. And he was a very wealthy Jew. He lived at the Coronado Hotel at the time with his wife. And he says, I'm putting in, I think maybe about 40 or 50,000 in the building. And he couldn't sell anything. He didn't know how to sell anything. But he opened his own business there in the chemical building, and I worked for him. And I really enjoyed working for him. And then, in the meantime, I got that job for Mary Prokes, and we'd get together. You know, she was in the chemical building on the 3rd floor, and I was on the 8th floor there. And then he, I think I was with him about 6 months. He says, after I lose all my money, you know, after he gives all his money away, why he would just quit. That's right, I went to work, before I went into Shell Oil Company, I went to work for this Tavan guy. And he went to work then at the St. Louis Realty Company. He closed his office because he couldn't make a go of it. And he had so much money left in the bank, maybe about 2 weeks' salary, and he told me I could have it at 2 weeks' salary to close out the bank account. And in the meantime, I did get a call from Shell Oil Company. That's when I went to Shell Oil Company. And he told me, he says, and then he went to work for the St. Louis Realty Company across the street in the, what is that building on the 7th and Chestnut, on the northwest corner. It's a very good building. I think the government owns it now. It's a big building. It's I think it's 7th and Chestnut on the northwest corner. It's west. Yeah, northwest.
The Wainwright?
Wainwright building.
Okay.
That's the building. That's where he went. That's where that company was. And I went to Shell Oil Company, and I just hated that place. You had to be there on time. You had
Strikes a chord, Diane.
You couldn't go to the bathroom hardly. This guy was sitting there always watching you, what you were doing, and checking up on you whether or not you were gone 5 or 10 or 15 minutes. You couldn't be gone more than 45 minutes for lunch. You had to be back on time. Oh boy, it was awful. I couldn't stand, I never was used to anything like that. So in the meantime, this Tavan told me, if I hear of a good place to work, if they need a girl over there, where he was going at the St. Louis Realty Company, he says, I'm going to give you a telephone call. It happened almost a year later. He called me, and I had 2 weeks vacation coming from Shell Oil, and I was just about ready to take my vacation when he called me, and I got my 2 weeks vacation from Shell Oil, and I went to work at the St. Louis Realty Company for Charlie somebody, I can't think of his name. He was a Jewish man, and there was another girl in the office there, Jewish, the secretary. I can't think of her name. But anyway, I was the second girl to work in the office there. And this Tavan called me up, and he said to me, if he wants to reduce, he says, you asked for $125 a month. And he says, he may not want to give it to you, but you stick to it. And he says, you'll get it. So I stuck to it, and I got it. Of course, she went to, I really liked him. This Jewish fellow that I worked for, he was a wonderful guy.
Right.
So that's the experiences of my real estate.
Yeah. Some good stories.
Huh?
Didn't you slightly
You both
fudge
get
on your
good-
age when you went to work for White?
Did I collect for one?
No, when you
You told him you were 10 or 15 years younger, didn't you?
Oh,
When you
I
went
don't
to work for
remember
White?
when
Oh,
well, I'll tell you, we had one fellow, when they were going to get, to get, not so, is it Social Security or what is it? You know, when they pay, they get the people together and is it workman's compensation or what is it? Anyway, then this fella Gene that was running our office, why he came around and I says, look, I'm older really than, and he says, oh, don't say anything, we'll forget about it. So, and then I gave myself 10 years, made myself 10 years younger.
10 years.
Huh?
10
Yeah,
years.
10 years.
Well, if you're gonna fudge, go big.
Yeah, what the heck?
Go good.
Why
Why
chance
take
on it?
off 3 when you?
Nobody ever knew either.
Nobody
And
ever
you know,
today, Rose Martin still thinks I'm 10 years younger. Because she certainly would look at that paper. You know, he was trying to get all of us insurance, whatever that is.
Yeah.
Whatever
Yeah,
that is.
health
Probably medical
insurance, I think.
insurance.
Medical insurance or something like that, and I made myself 10 years younger. I told Gene, I says, I'm not even supposed to be working here, and he says, and I made myself 10 years younger on that slip of paper. You've gotta be smart.
See, Ann and I did that. She always told people I was 10 years younger. Remember that?
Your mother that dumb story in your mom.
Okay.
Tell it.
You know, Ann thought I was 10 years younger.
You can tell me the whole thing.
Yeah, and she always
But
told
I
people
did
my
like
age
that guy
according to the 10
Cervantes,
years
he was a
younger.
wonderful guy, even though he had a girlfriend. He used to have, is it Swift and Company, are they still in business?
Sure.
Mhm.
Swift and Company, are they still in business?
So that's the meat packing?
Yeah, they
These
still
meat
are. They're
packers,
still
are they
down.
still in
They're still
business?
down in,
He used to go there twice a week, I think. And he had all those fellows insured. Everybody in Swift and Company he had insured. He'd come back with all these different applications, you know. And there's always somebody getting a finger cut or something. We had more accidents from Swift and Company, it was unbelievable. But
In your hamburger.
he had
Yep.
all Swift and Company people insured. He was a good insurance man. And Mrs. Fitzgerald quit, and I didn't know why at that time, but she quit because she found out he had a girlfriend. And then I got the job. And then he got to be the manager or the head agent for I think it was Federal Life, and he left Columbia National. Then we went downstairs on another floor, and he got to be the manager of the Federal Life Insurance Company. And he had them a long time, and then when he got all this trouble of family trouble and all that sort of stuff, why somebody else took his place, some fellow by the name of Tom Sly. In fact, his son now, Sly, is a big parishioner at the church in Clayton. What's
St.
church?
Joseph's.
Where?
St. Joseph's or
St.
Ward.
Joseph's. I see his name there all the time. I think he calls himself Dr. Sly. I don't think he's a doctor, but he has some degree where he's a doctor. That's Tom Sly's son. But Tom Sly didn't like me, and I didn't like him neither. And that was one reason why I left the office there.
That's not running, is it, Tom?
Yeah, it's
I had a
recording.
lot of,
You're in
but
it
the
too.
only job that I didn't like was when I worked for that guy at Shell Oil Company. I couldn't stand him. He'd sit there. I think he was in the war and he got hurt. He was kind of shell shocked or something. That's what I heard. He'd sit there at his desk and just watch his girls all the time.
There's some good stories, the pair of you. I don't know which has the better stories about the weird people at work or about throwing snakes down the ground or what.
What?
I said, I don't know which of you has better stories.
Well, I think I had a wonderful life in working. I had some wonderful bosses. I had a wonderful
Too bad
boss.
most of them didn't play it straight.
Huh?
Yeah.
They're all carrying on.
Most girlfriends.
They were all
The
married.
biggest one was that
Of
Feder.
course.
Everything used to happen right there at the office too.
Is that right up on Brentwood there?
Yeah,
It's probably the same family.
those are the sons
Oh,
on
really?
Brentwood.
Yeah, let's hope it's not.
I was gonna say, it's the same guy.
And the Jewish girl died
Okay,
last
it's
year.
like the same family. yeah.
Oh, she did?
She died last year. And the funniest thing, these boys, I guess, thought she was the big shot. When she quit, why they gave her $1,000 to go on a trip. I heard this from Mary Prokes.
When she was their father's mistress, right?
She was. Only no, and he was a peculiar guy. Well, I used to go out with the bookkeeper up there. I didn't have an affair with him, but.
No, it's coming out.
But
Glad I only worked
he
with
and
girls.
I got to be a good friend, but he was an old bachelor, and my mother used to like him. She thought he was a pretty good guy, but he was about 30 years older than me, and we didn't go out too much, other than going out to eat and probably go for an automobile ride or something like that. But I used to go out with him a lot of times. But he had half a dozen girlfriends. And at that time, Federer, I don't know, Jean got a house, I remember, on Connecticut from the boss. And George, that's this bachelor I'm talking about, he got these buildings on Bates Avenue. There's 16 apartments. And he was really wealthy, you might say, and he didn't want a girl, steady girl, but he had girlfriends calling him all the time. He had 2 or 3 of those girls that lived on Bates Street. They called him regularly, and then one married woman used to call him every week and invite him out to eat with him. And he'd take me out. I never did feed him, but he'd take me out. I'd go out with him, and my mother loved him. She thought he was wonderful. But he was so cheap, I can't begin to tell you. He was so tight with his pennies.
And when you dated somebody for, say, like 6 months, was your dad still alive?
My dad died when I was 7 years old.
Oh, well, when my dad.
There were 6 of us, and the oldest one in the family was my sister, and she was 13 years.
My dad would not. If you
So
dated
my
a
mother
fellow
had
like
6 of us.
months, he would, the guy'd always have to come in the house, and he'd say, after that long a time, he'd say, "What are your intentions towards my daughter?" Embarrass you to death.
Well, the very first fellow I ever went with, he was a darling fellow. He was only about 19 years, 18 or 19 years, and he was just crazy about me. And he gave me his, I guess his grade school pen. I still got it at home. And then, after I went with him a few times, I found out he was divorced already. The poor guy had a bad marriage or something, so I could go with him.
Kept his pen though?
Then I went with Clyde Wallace Clark, who was a wonderful boy, and I went with him about, I was going with him about 8 months then, and I didn't know it, and he was already going to St. Agnes Church, and he was going to be turning Catholic for me. And I went to his sister's house at Christmas time. He came over to the house, he gave me a beautiful bracelet, and I went to his sister, I think, no, his brother's house. His brother's brother was a teacher, and his father was there. It was and in those days, there was a very fast day before Christmas. You remember that?
Yeah, you used to have to fast and abstain.
Very big fast day before Christmas. And we were at his brother's house for a supper party. And they had meat and I wouldn't eat it. And his father kept digging at me. What is the purpose why you're not eating meat? What reason do you have? What's the reason of being a fast day today? And I was so young, I didn't know the difference. I didn't know anything about it. And I went to the bathroom and I cried like anything. And this fella, Mrs. Clark came in there and she started petting me or telling me, I think she was Catholic if I'm not mistaken. I'm not sure, no, I guess she wasn't, but she was very nice to me and she consoled me, and that was the last time I went out with Clyde Wallace Clark. I told him I'm through with him and his family. So I didn't go out with him anymore. I kept the bracelet.
Good for you. So you got a pin and a bracelet.
I still have them at home.
Good.
But he was really a handsome boy, a wonderful boy. So, you heard all about my boyfriends.
We used to work at the phone company, didn't you, Mom?
Yeah.
Why don't you tell about working there and the air conditioning in the summer and
There wasn't any, no air conditioning. There were big fans and the place was full of cockroaches and bed bugs.
Oh.
Yeah, they'd come up, you know, each one had a section about this big, and there was a crack in there, and the bed bugs would come up through the cracks there and bite you on the arms, and, oh, God.
those are the days when you had the wires you had to plug in?
Yeah, when you
Speaking
plug-
about girlfriends and boyfriends, see, I worked mostly, I didn't work like for Mr. White. Rosemarie was his secretary, but I was the, like assistant bookkeeper to Elmer Ludwig. And of course, John Postal, and I worked for John Postal, those two. And I did all the bookkeeping and wrote out all the checks and did all that sort of stuff. Elmer was the big chief, he was the vice president of the company. And of course, with John knowing, you know, being on the outside, well, he always knew that everything that was going on. And talking about when I first started working there, I was answering the telephone, I was answering the phone. And there was, somebody called for Elmer one day. And I says, he's busy. He had somebody at his desk. I says, he's busy. I can't let you talk to him right now. Give me the message. And she says, no. She'd call again. And then Elmer left that afternoon. And he was waiting for that call. It was his girlfriend. He was waiting for that call.
Boy, does everybody you work for?
Well,
Carry on.
I can tell you all kinds of stories. And he
now when
came.
they call for you,
I was there only 2 weeks or 3 weeks when this call came through, and he came back and he just bawled the hell out of me that he didn't get that call. She told him, see, and he says, anytime I get a telephone call, no matter who is at my desk, I don't care whether you disturb me. He says, I want that call. But he didn't tell me she was his girlfriend, but I right away knew. I had too much experience with all these other offices I worked in.
Well, I guess all the romances beat the bed bugs.
So from that time on,
Yeah, I worked
I
with
knew,
both
I always had to
ladies,
give the
so-
telephone call to him. And then I kind of mentioned it to Rosemarie, and of course, she knew all about it. And of course, I talked to John about it, and he knew all about it. It was one of our tenants out there in Morrison Village. She worked at one of those dress houses, and Elmer would always go out there and check up on all those different
So
places.
check
And
the
then,
properties out, right?
and then he'd have lunch with her somewhere. And that was his girlfriend, and John always told me everything, you know, he saw Elmer with so-and-so. So then, she died, she had cancer and died. And she must have been, I don't know whether she was a widow or married or what, but anyway, she had children, grown children. And they maybe knew that he was running around that she was running around with Elmer or something. But they went ahead, and she was only laid out one day and buried her. And he was going to maybe go to see her. Oh, and he came back one day and he says, "Did you know so-and-so at this dress?" I says, "No," you know, I knew all about it. I says, "No, I never heard of her." And then he told me she died. And then she, John, you know, used to always tell me he saw Elmer with her or something like that. And that was all right, because I knew all the stories always about him. And then the next day he came and he says, "What do you know?" He says, "Did I tell you about this woman? She worked at that dress house, I forget the name of it right now." He says, "She died," and he says, "I was telling Goldie, one of the Goldie boys," he says, "we were going to go out to see her," and he says, "her family buried her right away." And he says, "I came home and I was telling my wife all about it." He says, "We were going out to see her," and he says, "there she was buried already." It was something,
Interesting times.
huh?
Well, how old were you when your father died?
When my father
No,
died,
You said you were 7, right?
I was 7. He was 42 years.
Yeah. he was-
About 26.
Oh, so you were a lot older when your father
Yeah.
died.
And my sister, she was 13, and she was going to, she graduated from grade school, and there was a place down on 14th, or somewhere downtown, down there in, near Soulard there, and some kind of nuns teaching down there, and she was going down there getting some kind of, I don't know what she was studying. So she had to quit, and she went to work.
Well, you
She
were
married when she was 18. Francis did.
Was your whole family grown, Mrs. Smith, when your father died?
Are you talking to me?
No, I'm
Were
talking
they
Dad's
not
mother. I asked if her whole family was grown. You were 26.
Maybe I wasn't that old, let's see. I don't know, now let's see, Leonard, he was the youngest, he was in high school, Lucille was working, I guess I could have been 24, 25, 26, so down there somewhere.
So you were all older.
Yeah. And to this day, Leonard's wife says she doesn't know how on earth my mother managed, because my dad didn't believe in insurance for himself, can you believe that? He left no insurance. And
You
we're
know-
just lucky she had some of us working, you know.
Old enough to
And then,
work.
yeah.
You know,
And we-
talking
we
about
paid room and
Federer.
board and-
When I worked for Cervantes, why he was such a wonderful boss, and we've always, you know, he included all his family, and I mean, all the office help, you know, to go to parties and everything. And the same way with, and Federer was just terrible. He'd always have like a New Year's Eve party, and the only one he invited was this fella that I used to go out with sometimes, was George. He'd invite him. And then Jim Zip and his wife from the office, our lawyer, just those 3 invited. He never invited anybody else, you know, to his house. And he never did, he had 7 kids, he never did let his kids come into the office. They never came to there was not one time did he ever bring his children to the office, or did we ever know them. And I went to a party here maybe about a half a year ago, about 6 months ago or so. And it was over at St. Joseph's Church. They had, I think they had mass, and then they had something down in the basement, some kind of an affair. And there was one girl that isn't a Catholic, but she wanted to go to this affair that was down in the basement, and I don't remember what it was anymore. But I asked her if she wanted to go. She had to come to Mass with me, and because I was going down there then. And she knew, and oh, I'll tell you what, this Federer girl, one of the daughters, were going to talk. That's what it was. And I says, I have never met any of his children, and she knew her. This girlfriend of mine knew her. Muriel knew her. So I says, when you go, I says, maybe you can bring her. And she came over after she had her little talk. I forget what she talked about. After she had her little talk, like, she came over to Muriel and talked with Muriel, and then Muriel introduced me to her. But, oh, her name is, let me see, Kat, I think. Kat. Her husband's a, he's in real estate. What do you call it, you know, when they tell you how much a house will cost or something?
Appraiser?
Appraiser. He's a real estate appraiser. Potts, I think his name is. Maybe you know him, Mary, do you? Anyway, I met his daughter then through Muriel.
Would you like some more coffee?